Good morning, everyone. Let's continue with Berlo's model of communication. We spoke about source in the last session. In this session, I'm going to continue from message. So these are the basic elements or the basic features that goes into the framework of message creation. The first one is content, second one is elements, third one is treatment, fourth one is structure, fifth one is code. Now let's see each one of them what are the roles that they have to play when we talk about the framework of message creation. So content is everything that goes into the formation of the message. So when we consume material, what we consume is we consume material in form of the content. Every mass communication material that you consume on an everyday basis is a part of the content creation. Okay, it could come up in form of an advertisement, as a PSM, as a documentary film, as a feature film, as a piece of art, as a book, as a television program, or even a news story that you write or a journalist writes, highlighting the issues or highlighting whatever is happening in and around. So all these, all these stories or all these materials are part of the larger content making process. What are the elements? Elements are the basic the the basic structures through which we try to define the content. Okay, smaller finer nuances that goes into the formation or framework of the content. You decide, okay, these are the things that must go into the material. Okay, for example, in a news story, what you tend to do is you need to find quotes, you need to find facts, you need to, when you are doing a live reporting on the field, you go gather facts or information and then talk to people who contributed to that news story. And then all those things, when it come together, this goes into the content, and these are the smaller elements that kind of helps in the formation or formulation of the story. In a film, for example, there are stories, there is the script, there are characters, there is a setting, the place and in which time the film or the story is based, what are the characters doing. All these things are basic elements that come together to the making of the film. So you have a theme or an idea, and then for that to translate, it could be a news story, it could be a film or a documentary film or a short film, any of the materials that you want to put it out there. It always starts with an idea or a central idea or a key idea through which you want to translate whatever thoughts you have, in terms of reflecting upon that idea. So all the things that come together in the making of that content goes into the larger messaging part. Third is the treatment of the story. The very fact that you want to decide that, let's say the topic is educating a girl child. This is an example that I've given in the previous sessions as well. Educating a girl child is a theme or an idea that you have. Now, you whether you want to write a book about educating the girl child, or you want to do a longer feature length essay piece for a magazine or a journal, or you want to make a 20 minutes short documentary film, or you want to write a feature length film and go and make it for the audience to start having a dialogue, or for the readers to read and gain information about what your idea or theme is. So the way you treat it, the very fact that, okay, this is an idea which is common to all these styles of telling the story. When you're treating it, you treat it differently when you're writing a book or a feature piece, as against making a short film or a documentary. When you're making a short film, whether that short film is fictional one or a non-fictional one, if it is a fictional one, how many characters you are going to put forward in your story, or if it's the non-fiction film, are you going to base it on extremely real life situations where you find characters who are there, and let's say there is a family which completely devotes itself to the education of, let's say, two girl child that they have, or children that they have. So the very decision making process that goes into um, you know telling of that story defines what the treatment is like. So treatment, as the word suggests, is how you are treating the content. So that kind of contributes significantly to the message making process. Fourth one is the structure of the story. So or structure of the message. So what is structure? What it does? Structure helps you kind of look at the framework in a larger objective way. What are the things that goes into it and how I'm going to tell this story? I'm going to tell this story, or I'm going to send this message through the form of a documentary film or through a news story, because the writing of a news story or a feature length story would follow a different structure as against a documentary film or a short film that you are trying to tell. So these things are very crucial when you try to put your message forward, because your structure is going to define whether there's a likability factor about the content or not. Okay, it's going to tell you when you are beginning the story, what is the crux of your body, and how you're trying to wind up, or how you're trying to conclude the story. So structure gives you a rough framework how to proceed with the message. Last one is code. Okay, code is a very significant aspect of how messages are created. I spoke about the process of encoding and decoding, so you must pay attention to that part, that how a particular idea or a theme is always coded or encoded, for that matter, for the receiver to decode that material. Okay, so messages could be put forward in a different way. So the code that it follows, whether that code is something that is popular in nature, or whether there is a populist tonality to it, whether the code is something that is for a very niche audience or a niche reader base, all those things that you take a call on. Okay, how I am trying to put this story forward. What are the key elements, or what are the key things that I'm putting into that message, so that the message becomes more convincing for the people who are going to consume or see or read that story. So in order to write a viable story, it could be a feature length story that you want to pitch, or to your boss in an editorial meeting, or you are putting forward a theme or an idea to a funding organization which is going to offer you money to make a documentary film, so on and so forth. So the way you try to process that idea and write it or develop it would define how you have encoded that message, and whether it is encoded in a way which is extremely effective in terms of communicating the idea that you have or not, would help you define whether the coding of this message has been right or not. To give you another small example before we move on to channel, is just treat it just the way a technical code by any software guy is written. So every app, for example, that you are accessing or using at this point in time would tell you that there is always a backend team that is constantly working. The people who have coded, created, codes in a certain way. That's why you are being able to navigate through a certain app so smoothly. So and when you look at the codes and when you look at the final output, there's a huge variation, right? So here is a visual interface which helps you navigate through different kind of elements that are there inside the app, different kind of features that are there inside the app, for you to smoothly access and use, put it to the best possible use the way you want to. So back at the back end, there are people who are constantly working towards the betterment of this app, so that the navigation, so that the accessibility for the user becomes easy. So you must have heard about user interface. So the user interface is possible because at the back end somebody is coding. Similarly, the message, when in a communication process, when message plays such as key or a significant role, its encoding got to be in a structured, effective way, so that it will be easier or relatively easier for the receiver to decode and understand. Unless you have encoded the material to the best possible intent of yours, I'm referring to the source here, the receiver might not receive it or might not be able to decode the material in the same way. Another small example would be why let's say for example films, why a certain film becomes popular as against a film that a lot of people say that we could not understand. I'll give you a very small example. um, let's say let's consider two films, two Indian films. Okay, one is no smoking, and another is you know another is, let's say, Three Idiots. Okay, why Three Idiots become extremely popular, was completely accepted by the audience as against a no smoking which created a very niche audience in India, is because of this. There's no problem with the messaging, it's just that it's structured differently, it's encoded differently. Whereas Three Idiots focuses on the theme and is encoded in a certain way which would appeal to the larger audience. No smoking was created or encoded, the messaging in no smoking, the story in no smoking was encoded with certain ideas which are surrealistic in nature, which are something that the audience might find, Indian audience might find trouble in understanding, because they are not used to surrealistic content. They are not used to breaking up the fourth wall, they are not used to non structured way of storytelling. They're not used to the way a certain filmmaker would try to put forward the story, which is largely European in treatment. So on and so forth. So when we look at such kind of content, we can easily differentiate between whether a certain encoding of the message, if cinema is the message, if the film is that message, certain messaging is done in a certain way which is populist in nature or for the offered for the niche audience. Okay, now let's move to the channel part. Okay, channel, like I told you before, is the medium through which message is transferred from the source to the receiver. What are the things that goes into the channel? Channel is hearing, as per Berlo. Channel is hearing, channel is seeing, touching, smelling, tasting. So basically your physical elements, come into picture in terms of understanding um, the medium through which the message is passed on. Okay, I need to stop here. There is some issue with the system. I'll just get back. Thank you.